On 1+1, Taken Hostage, Ingrid Betancourt revisits the prison that was the Colombian jungle. And Britain's tabloid press, when does the public have a right to know? Hello, I'm Jane Hutchin. Welcome to the program. Earlier this month, the European Court of Human Rights turned down a proposal that newspapers should be forced to warn the subjects of exposés before they publish. The idea was the brainchild of ex-Formula One boss Max Mosley. His campaign began in 2008 when the UK tabloid News of the World printed a story that alleged Mr. Mosley had engaged in Nazi-themed sex with prostitutes. It was a powerful accusation, considering his father was Britain's wartime fascist party leader, Sir Oswald Mosley. Max Mosley admitted to the sadomasochism, but the court agreed with him that the sex session did not have Nazi overtones. The News of the World was ordered to pay damages and costs. Max Mosley is speaking with Philip Williams in London.
Well, Max Mosley, thanks very much for joining 1+1. Tell me about the day your life changed irrevocably and why you then decided to, what you described, declare war on the News of the World newspaper.
Well, it was a Sunday morning, perfectly normal Sunday morning, and I got a call from the FIA's pressman saying, it's this big story in the News of the World. Of course, it's not a newspaper I take, so I went out and bought a couple, and then that was it. And of course, I then had to show it to my wife, who, to begin with, thought it was a joke. She thought I'd had this specially printed for a laugh. And so obviously she wasn't very happy, and things went on from there.
Obviously a devastating moment for you personally, but most people in that situation, faced with what you said is extremely embarrassing, excruciating moment personally for you, might have dug a deep hole and buried themselves. You came out fighting. Why? Well,
for several reasons. First of all, it was, to my mind, completely illegal. I thought, this is something absolutely private, it's nothing to do with anybody, doesn't in any way impinge on my work, and this is an outrage. It's as if somebody had come in and stolen all my furniture or helped themselves to my bank account. Something must be done. So that was the first reaction. And then, obviously, there's the embarrassment, but the embarrassment then has to be weighed against the anger.
And obviously the anger won.
Yes.
Now, one of the, I'm presuming here, one of the most, the aspect that angered you the most was the references to the Nazi theme of the bondage session. And given your family background, of course, with your father, is that what really hurt the most?
Well, I would have gone for them anyway, even if they hadn't done that. But of course that was outrageous because it was completely untrue, and they must have known. I mean, when you look at the video, you look at the pictures, it's just, there's nothing Nazi there, and it was purely invented because of my antecedents, and that was obviously very annoying and very aggravating.
This goes on, of course, every day of the week. We have intrusions by the media. What would you say to the criticism, well, what's special about you? Why should you have been afforded that protection?
Well, the thing is that most of the people they pick on, certainly in the UK, can't really do anything about it, because once the story's out, if you sue for breach of privacy, two things happen. One is that you get all the information that you want to keep private repeated again, but on top of that, if you lose, it probably costs you £1 million. If you win, it still costs you £30,000 or £40,000. In my case, I was, after all the damages and all the costs, still £30,000 out of pocket.
You did beat them. You got what you wanted. Why didn't you leave it at that?
Well, there's a number of reasons. First of all, it'd be a long time before there's a case as bad as mine done to somebody who is in a position to defend themselves, the first point. Second point is that it seemed to me absolutely unjust that there's no remedy, because to have the private matter repeated and get a big bill into the bargain is not a remedy. And that's why then I said something must be done about this, and we decided to go to Strasbourg.
And tell me what you want. What's your answer to this problem?
The answer to me is that any newspaper that wants to publish private information should tell the person about whom they intend to publish it beforehand, so that that person has a chance to go to a judge, if he wants, and try to get it stopped. Of course, you can only get it stopped if you've got an overwhelming case. You've got to satisfy the judge that you're likely to win the ultimate trial, because this is just an interim order. But you should have that opportunity.
Rich and powerful people, though, we know, have great capacity to squash things, more so than the ordinary person. Doesn't that give an unfair advantage to some people?
Well, there's an unfair advantage always at law if you've got money, because unfortunately it's an expensive thing to do. But leaving that on one side, no, because you go to the judge and the judge will weigh up the newspaper's reasons for publishing, the public interest in the matter, versus the individual's need to keep it private, the privacy aspect, and he weighs these very carefully.
But then, of course, you have time pressures, you have the money involved in some of these investigations. There are a lot of extra pressures, aren't there, to publish and publish quickly?
Well, indeed, but the problem is that if you publish when you shouldn't publish, the damage is irrevocable. If you look now at my case, 3 years on, it's still all over the web. We're now involved in litigation in, I think, 21 different countries trying to get that removed.
Are you trying to